Donald Trump today announced that goods imported from both the European Union and Mexico will face a 30% U.S. tariff starting August 1. In letters posted to a social media platform, Truth Social, the tariff assault on the EU came as a shock to European capitals, as the European Commission and the U.S. Trade Representative, Jamieson Greer, had spent months hammering out a deal they believed was acceptable to both sides. The agreement, in principle, put on Trump's table last Wednesday, involved a 10% tariff, 5 times the pre-Trump tariff, which the bloc already describes as pain. EU trade ministers will meet Monday for a pre-arranged summit and will be under pressure from some countries to show a tough reaction by implementing $24.6 billion retaliatory measures, which they had paused until midnight the same day. Similarly, President Trump sent letters to more than 20 trading partner countries threatening to impose blanket tariffs of 15 or 20% on most of them unless they reach a trade deal by the end of the month. Canada is facing a higher levy. The country has been informed there will be a 35% tariff on Canadian imported goods. In its reaction, the Canada Business Council says, though it was unfortunate, it wasn't much of a surprise. The council describes it as an ongoing tactic that continues to be utilized on not just Canada, but many other countries, including Singapore, the Philippines, and Thailand. The drug fentanyl was one of the reasons President Trump gave for the tariff threat on Canada, claiming that the country isn't doing enough to stop illegal shipments of the drug coming to the U.S. through Canada's borders. Well, we've got to make sense of these developments, and to do that with us is the Rise analyst, Doug Brooks, joining us now via Zoom. Hi, Doug. Thank you for joining us on the Rise America.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Tariffs, 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 more tariffs, higher tariffs, this country, that country, and retaliatory tariffs. How does this help local economy? Because bear in mind that whatever tariff you put on a trading partner is going to be, the brunt are going to be borne by the final consumers. What do you make of this?
Well, you're absolutely correct, but honestly, Trump is not necessarily the brightest president we've ever had. This is his second presidency, and he still doesn't understand that it's American consumers that are essentially paying his tariffs. His administration has been boasting about how many billions of dollars they've made off tariffs, but essentially his whole tariff regime has been the biggest tax hike on American citizens in the history of the United States. So yeah, it's sort of self-defeating, but he doesn't understand that, and his followers is essentially his cult that follows him. Simply believes everything he says about the tariffs. We're seeing prices go up as a result, and if these latest tariffs actually go through, and that's not clear because Trump has an amazing history of backing down on all his tariffs. If the tariffs actually do go through, then we will see the stock market tank. We will see the prices go up, and it will be a real disaster for the U.S. economy.
Doug, are you bothered as I am, as much as I am, about how the relationship between America and Canada is going south? 35%. Who would have thought that Canada of all nations will be on this side of the divide with America?
It's absolutely crazy. The U.S. has had traditionally a very close relationship to Canada. When I was growing up, excuse me, the border was like 1,000 miles of border was simply a 3-foot trench between Montana and the northern states with Canada. It was a very, very open area. Trump says now that illegal drugs are being smuggled in from Canada, but that's silly. There's very few coming in from Canada. And we've had, such a close relationship economically. Parts of our cars are made in Canada. A lot of our energy comes from Canada. So it is really kind of Trump's hostility to Canada is pretty surprising, and I think it's part of it is because Canada hasn't buckled down to his bluster and to his threats. So um, yeah, it's not good for Americans. It's not good for Canadians. It's a bad situation.
Well, Trump is blaming Canada for not doing enough to stop the flow of fentanyl. Do you honestly think that Canada could have done better?
No, and the amount that is actually coming across the border that they've proven is so small. I mean, it's insignificant, and he could have used any excuse he wanted. This one is particularly silly, but it really was. I think he was looking for something to blame Canada for, and that's what he came up with. It's silly, but that's President Trump.
Well, in all of this, Stephen Miran is someone that nobody has called out. We should be talking to the rest of the world now. What do you make of the performance of Trump's economic advisors like Stephen Miran?
Well, in the first Trump administration, there were a number of advisors who were not, let's say, not Trump supporters 100%. They were trying to serve the United States, and they were able to essentially challenge Trump's policies. Nowadays, in this current administration, he's made sure that the only people that he has in the administration are essentially the ones that are going to agree with him and try to further his policies, whether they make sense or not. And this has not served the United States very well, the United States taxpayers very well. And some of it is going to come home to roost, I think, this year. We've already seen that predictions about the US GDP has dropped by something like 40% this year, which is costing the United States $1 trillion in GDP. It's going to be painful, and unfortunately, this is Trump's style. He wants everybody to simply agree with him and figure out how to make his sort of crazy policies um, happen. So that's what we're seeing.
But you know that an American president's influence extends beyond the tenure of office. And then when Trump does these things, what comes to mind is how he negotiates as a businessman. As a consummate businessman, you think that Trump will be deft in matters of negotiations. So how is he bringing these to bear in his governance?
Well, okay, this is a businessman who has six bankruptcies behind him, and we're hoping that the United States is not the seventh. He claims to be a great negotiator. He said he was going to end the Ukraine-Russia war in his first day in office. That doesn't seem to have happened. He claims he'd stop the war in Gaza, which still seems to be going on. I don't know how great of a negotiator he is. I think one reason that the stock market is doing as well as it is, despite Trump's policies, is that Wall Street has come up with a saying they call Trump taco, which means Trump always chickens out. So every time he sort of announces new tariffs, they know that he's going to back down and reverse himself, which he does most of the time. So these 30% or 35% tariffs that he's been talking about lately, I think Wall Street expects that he's going to reverse himself again. We'll see. But it's not a good look for business. It's not a good look for the U.S. economy right now. And as far as his negotiating skills, I don't think the U.S. economic partners have seen much of that.
It's not good for the U.S. economy. It's not good for business. It's not good for U.S. reputation. What does it spell for the midterm polls?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
It doesn't. The tariffs hikes do not spell well, do not augur well for U.S. economy, for any business in the U.S. And then, how does this impact on the midterm polls and the fortunes of the party, the Republicans?
Well, right now, I think it's taking time for some of those policies to come home to roost. And so they've just passed what Trump's had a massive success in his latest bill, the big, beautiful bill that he got passed through Congress, which has big tax breaks. And some sort of funny calculations that say it's going to bring down the massive deficit that the U.S. Has in its spending. Hard to say if that's going to happen and what the impact will be on the Republican Party if we don't see the positive changes that he predicted. So that's up in the air. And at the same time, of course, domestically inside the United States, they've been implementing this massive policy to go after, as they call them, illegal workers. Um, the reality is the U.S. has a very, very complex immigration system that's become very bureaucratic and very legalistic, and it's very difficult to immigrate to the United States legally. The U.S. is turning 250 years old in a year. And for the first 100 years, basically the immigration system just said, do you have tuberculosis? If you do, you can't come in. Otherwise, you're welcome. Nowadays, it takes months, years to get your citizenship. What it means is that a lot of the U.S. industry is having to use illegal workers to essentially fill slots, especially in agriculture, in meat packing, things like that. A lot of our industry is actually based on these illegal workers. These
Okay,
people
Doc.
have snuck across the border, if you want to say that. Some of them have been here for decades,
Doc,
working in the U.S. economy and essentially contributing billions to our economy. Now the current policies under Trump are to with the immigration ICE, they call it, this immigration service, is they are violently finding these people and evicting them from the United, arresting them and evicting them from the U.S. with very little due process. It's very un-American, and it's also basically hamstringing the economy from the inside. So between the tariffs, as you pointed out, which are self-defeating, and this immigration policy, which is also self-defeating, it's going to be a huge blow to the U.S. economy and to the U.S. taxpayers.
Okay, Doug, I like the way you touched on a lot of other areas, but I'm saying even that the major reason Trump was elected 2 years ago was because of the economy, his stance on the economy. The citizens perhaps felt the Democrats were not doing enough to salvage the economy. Now that the economy seems to be going south under Trump, what does that mean for the party, the Republicans, in November when they have the midterm elections?
That's a really, really important question. Now, what's really kind of funny is the economy under Joe Biden was, in fact, booming. And The Economist magazine, of course, famously had a cover where it pointed out that the U.S. had this sort of miracle economy that was doing so much better than the rest of the industrialized world. But Trump essentially won, saying the economy was doing very poorly. He essentially put out this myth that the economy was disastrous and that only he could make it better. That we haven't seen that happen. But at the same time, when Trump talks, when he gives his speeches, he says the economy has never been better and that he's doing all the right things. And honestly, he has this 40% of the U.S. population, I guess, that is essentially going to believe anything he says. So if he says it's day is night and night is day, then that's what they'll believe. So yes, most Americans will see right through it, but most Americans, unfortunately, are not voting in these elections, and so it's what we're seeing now is the economy's not doing great, but Trump says it is. So I think for the Republican Party, essentially, if you're going to stay in power, you have to be backing Trump because he's so popular within its party. With independents and with the Democratic Party, he's extremely unpopular. Um, Will that finally change things in the next elections? Well, we'll start to see that with some elections coming up in November at the state level, local level, and then next year even more. So we should see, what's going to be happening with the Republican Party pretty soon. I think for Republicans who are more aware of the problems that Trump is creating, they're in a fix, they're in a bind, because if they go against Trump, they're going to lose their seats in Republican primaries. And so they're afraid to take Trump on directly. And so we end up with this weird situation now. So it's dangerous and it's unnerving.
Doug Brooks, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you.